What's going on, everybody? This is Drew and JC, and we are here with a first for the Watchers. We are going to talk with a guest that has
Disappeared.
disappeared.
Right after this opening sequence.
And that caught me off guard.
Just fire it, man. Just fire it.
Yeah, here we go. All right, and we will introduce him after the introduction. So I hope everybody watching is enjoying. And that's the new intro for our crime watchers. And
I've seen worse.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I had fun making it.
Don't hype him up too much.
No, I need all the hype in the world. My partner refuses to do it. I need to feel like I'm contributing something. But more importantly, we have a guest tonight who is contributing a lot to society, and we're going to go ahead and we're just going to throw it to him. We're going to allow him to introduce himself and what he does, and from there we'll just do what we always do. We'll chat and get to know
him. All right. Well, I guess we'll start off by my name's Brian. I started a nonprofit organization back in September of 22 called 814 Pred Hunters. Our sole purpose is to search and find the adults online that are targeting our children for sexual purposes.
Rough intro.
So that's kind of the gist of where it started at.
Well, I believe you're not the only predator hunter in your area. So one thing I've been curious is there competitive overlap between you and some of the other predator hunters in the 814 area? Is it friendly? Do you ever happen upon
I wouldn't say.
Go ahead.
Like the same individual?
Yeah. Well, did you ever happen to catch?
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so to speak. What's the environment like, considering that there are other companies in the area? Is it competitive, or do you collaborate? And have you ever, kind of found the same people?
I wouldn't say it's so much competitive for me, at least. Yeah, there's other catch teams kind of locally in my area. The one catch team kind of got their start off of me. That individual came to me as a decoy, and kind of left on bad terms. Kind of won't get into that or what that catch team is. But as far as competitive, I wouldn't say any of us are really competitive towards each other. I mean, we're all here for the same purpose, to stop these individuals from preying on our children. So as far as collabing with anybody, I haven't collabed with anybody, and there's kind of a couple reasons. Excuse me. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm kind of taking their stuff, you know what I mean? Or interfering with anything they're doing. I kind of have collabed, I guess, with a decoy team called Women Against Predators. They're a really awesome team. And I've done a couple catches for them. As recently as I went to North Carolina, and we did 2 in North Carolina. So yeah, I mean, as far as competition wise between the catch teams, I don't think, I mean, I talked to most of the catch teams in and about the area. I've kind of follow them on their platforms as well. So yeah, I mean, we kind of all are pretty supportive of each other as far as the ones that I communicate with. So
I mean, it's kind of hard to like say that you're in competition with other catch teams, right? Like, who's going to catch the most predators today? One of those things, you know. Like, I think you're all on the same mission. You're all looking for the same thing, right?
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's catch teams out there that do that. I'm sure there are, but I mean,
I think
definitely 814 isn't that way. I mean, we kind of. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think there are certain channels that exist on like YouTube and Rumble that specifically kind of like are for the views. Not that they're not doing good. I think they're still doing good. But some people are out more for the views than like the actual protection.
Yeah, but you know,
there are some catch teams out there in my mind that are in it for the wrong reason. You know, and I'm not gonna call out any of them, but they're in it for the wrong reason. They're in it to make money. And I don't ever want anybody to think that I am doing it to make money for children getting hurt. So I'm definitely not in it for the money. And if you ask most of I actually just asked my secretary today, I said, how many catches do we have? Because I really don't know. Because I don't do it for the numbers neither. You know, I don't really pay attention to how many we caught. So it's kind of one of those things. I mean, there's teams out there that do it for, you know, in my mind, the wrong reason.
Sure.
That's kind of an over-encompassing thing right now with YouTube. I think a lot of people are essentially just kind of out for, you know, YouTube fame, YouTube donations, super chats, clout, that kind of thing. So to hear you say that, obviously, that's really cool to hear. That, you know, you're in it for the safety of these kids, which is really what this is all about. I'm curious how you got started in this, because obviously this has been a thing that's been around for a while. You can see in my background there, I have Dateline, Chris Hansen era. And so it's been like 20 some years since this kind of took off colloquially in you know, our zeitgeist, so to speak.
Right.
But, you know, prior to when Dateline was doing it, I had never heard of it, or so I'm sure that these kind of sting operations existed before, but they just weren't, you know, very public. And now, obviously, we have a lot of people who have different channels and have different organizations that are, you know, that have popped up all over the world, really. So,
which is great, right?
Yeah,
more the better.
Absolutely. So,
absolutely.
I'm just curious. Yeah, how did you get into it?
Of course, I did watch some of these, you know, over the years on YouTube. Before YouTube really put restrictions on us, you won't see too many on YouTube. And if you do see them, they're edited so bad that really you don't get the full gist of what goes on the catch itself. But my main reasoning was I had what to be is now an ex-friend that I left around my grandkids without even a worry. He went and he raped a 15-year-old child with another child there watching, and kind of told her she was next when she got older, you know. And So that's kind of, I wanted to, I went to my family. I said, listen, this is what I want to do. I said, if I can save just one child, I will be happy, I mean, cause I don't want any child to go through that. And, my family kind of looked at me and they said I was crazy and we don't have enough bail money because they kind of knew me at that point. But I'm definitely a lot different nowadays than I was when I first started back in 22. I was an angry person back then. I really hated these. I mean, I shouldn't say I hate them. I dislike them. Hate's a strong word. But back then I was angry and I took great pleasure in degrading them as much as possible. If they threw up or they cried, it made me happier. But now I do things a little differently. I get a lot more respect out of the police, the district attorneys, in how I do it. I do it more in an avenue to get as much evidence as we possibly can.
Yeah. It almost seems like in many of these cases, it's not just
where we're at.
Like not just in Pennsylvania, but in other states that like these district attorneys do not want to file charges unless you do this thing, this by the book. If you do anything outside that,
right,
you can't charge them.
Right. Absolutely. Everything has to be done perfect, and that's what makes it difficult on the catch teams that do it right. There's so many catch teams out there that don't. And it puts a bad taste in those district attorneys' mouth or the prosecutors' mouths to where they don't even want to work with catch teams. I mean, I got certain counties here in PA that absolutely will prosecute for us 100% of the time. And then I got other counties that just won't even touch a case. Like we have a catch in Blair County in Pennsylvania. We caught back in 22. They filed some charges on him in 22 for us. But those charges were ultimately dropped. And just like last month, they refiled new charges. And it's because there's been some DAs that really have taken apart the legal system to where they figured out a way to charge these guys illegally and they can't get out of it. So they actually filed new charges on this guy. And we got a preliminary hearing coming up for him next month, I do believe. Something like that. So yeah, it's, there's starting to be a lot more DAs come around to the way of thinking of prosecuting these guys because of certain counties that have been doing it. And I mean, we've been getting convictions and, so they've definitely been proven it can happen in PA. So I got a lot more DAs coming around, to where, they're actually wanting to work with catch teams as long as those catch teams do things the right way, and like me, no matter where I'm at, what state I am going to, I always call those police officers at police station, talk to detectives. If I have to talk to the DAs, I do so prior to the catch. Because I want the respect of the police and the DAs. I don't want them to be more or less pissed off at me because I came into their district and I didn't even warn them that I was coming. And lots of times with police, that's all it takes for them to respect you a lot more is just you talk to them prior, and let them know you're coming there to do this individual's catch. So
I think in a lot of cases it's really weird because like some states have laws that if the person on the other end that you're talking to believes that it's an underage person, then that is illegal. But in other cases, like I think like South Dakota, Minnesota, places like that, like it actually has to legitimately be an underage person. Like it doesn't count if it's not an underage person.
See, our laws here in PA, they actually state that it has to be a police officer or an actual child for the general charges. But what we're finding out here in PA is there's a complete different set of charges that we can charge these guys on. It's an all attempt charges. It's nothing that actual, like it's not the statutory rape or it's all attempt charges. And that's what they're getting in PA now is all attempt charges. So like I said, there's been a couple DAs that's figured this out, and there's a lot of other DAs coming on board now and understanding exactly how these other DAs have done it and been successful doing it, even against some good defense attorneys.
What is the difference in sentencing and punishment for an attempt charge versus an actual infraction? Well, I don't know. Maybe he knows. I'm just asking.
I mean, I can tell you what we're getting in a couple counties. Like most of the time, they're actually taking plea deals 1 to 5 year state time, life on Megan's. That's the one county that's what they're offering them on a plea deal. So I mean, I can't tell you. I know what those charges are supposed to carry most of the time. They're it's pretty posted what they usually carry. But they ultimately never get that anyhow. Even if they do the deed, they never really get the full charge anyways. So they usually take a plea deal, and that's been what we're findings happen. We go to the preliminary hearings, they waive their right to a preliminary hearing because they can't dispute that they were the ones doing it. At the end of the day, the evidence that we give the police and the DAs, they can't dispute it. So they 9 times out of 10, they waive their preliminary hearing, and then they take a plea deal before it even gets to a court hearing. So.
Okay. I'm curious how does being a decoy work in, I don't know, 2024, so to speak, when you're talking to these individuals and they're looking for a child, they're expecting certain behaviors, dialect, that kind of stuff. What's the process of being a decoy for you entail? How does it work? Do you have people who catch on, and what would you do in that situation? Just can you talk about the
well,
decoy?
Give me a second. I got somebody here. Would you be interested in talking a second? No.
Yes, please.
And I don't want them to see your face, but would you be interested in talking a second? I have a decoy here with me.
Interesting.
You can ask her.
Okay.
So, I mean, I won't put her on camera, obviously.
Sure.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, thanks for joining the show. So yeah, I'm curious.
Could you hear?
How? Yeah, we heard. Yeah. So I'm curious how, what's the process of being a decoy? How does this work, top to bottom? Can you maybe just walk us through it? And then from there, kind of, we'll field a couple of questions.
She can give you some ideas. I don't want her to give like kind of all the secrets.
Don't give it away.
What I mean? Because
obviously
there could be. Yeah. I mean, you can ask her some questions, absolutely, and I'm sure she'll answer them as long as she can. I just don't want to give away kind of the secrets to the trade kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely not.
So how do you convincingly convey somebody of a certain age? Are you studying how kids talk on a frequent basis? Like, I don't know what no cap means. But everybody's saying no cap now. How do you keep up with verbiage and vernacular changes and that kind of stuff?
I just talk like a normal person. I mean, they're so they're so naive. They believe anything you tell them. Now, some of them they do say no and they go away, but most of the time they come right back.
I will admit that you do sound very young.
Do you well? Okay. Do you communicate mainly through text, or do you actually
That's
speak too?
No, I talk on the phone with them. Most of the time it's text message, but there's sometimes they want to talk on the phone. So yeah, I do communicate over the phone with them.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess that definitely would give them kind of that added assurance because you definitely do sound very very young, actually.
all right, decoy. Thank you. We won't subject you to anything else.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's an art form, being able to do that. I do a lot of uh, creative writing, filmmaking, that kind of stuff, and they always say write about what you know, right? So you kind of, unless you're
Yeah.
really really good at being creative, you kind of always fall into this bubble here. But what you're doing is it's a mixture of improvisation, character work.
You're turning this into like a play, but you kind of have to like.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it takes. Yeah, it takes a special person to be a decoy. I mean, we have tons of people that come to us all the time wanting to be decoys. We usually we set up meets, and we go over everything regarding decoying with these individuals. And we've had them walk away from that meet and say, nope, this isn't for me. We've had them leave that meet. Yeah, I can do that. I'm pretty sure I can do that. And they never are able to, because like I tell them, at the end of the day, you're going through what every child has went through that's been groomed and molested. You're doing it multiple times, so you got to be able to separate yourself from that and understand that, doing you're not actually that child. But sometimes it's really hard to separate your stuff. I mean, even the decoy you just talked to, I mean, there's been some cases where it's been very difficult for her.
Oh, for sure.
And she's dealt with it well, but she's actually had to take little breaks, because of things that's been said and done. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I got some awesome decoys.
No, I mean, like you're taking on like this character that's abused, beaten down, that has to act like, and in many cases, like I'm just gonna throw an age out there, like a 14-year-old, and
mm-hmm.
I not anybody can do that. I can't do that. People, like people can't do that. That's a very special gift, and God bless anyone that can do that.
Also, on that note, is it possible?
Absolutely.
Is it possible
I mean,
to
the decoy
go
you
too
were
far?
talking to there, she normally is 13 or 14 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What's that?
Is it possible to like kind of take your conversation or requests or your behavior as a decoy like in too far in a direction that could create like I don't know, an argument for entrapment or something? Or like once they are under that belief that they're talking to that kid, does your decoy then have kind of like free reign to say whatever, be creative, do whatever is necessary to obtain the results of the evidence that this person is trying to do this with a child?
No, absolutely. My decoys are the most decoys on any catch team. They are restrained, and excuse me. the individual that they're talking to completely fully dictates the conversation. They make initial contact. The decoy will never write them first, will never do anything like that. The decoy will never talk sexual to them first ever. And as far as the decoy talking sexual, and they can't go like I have kind of a role guideline kind of deal. They can't go over, a certain threshold. Because yes, I mean, a defense attorney could say, hey, you know what, that little bit of communication right there, you could have caused him to do something he normally wouldn't have done. So yeah, I mean, the individual completely dictates the whole conversation. They message first, they talk sexual first, they set up the meet. They do everything, and usually, it's not an issue having them do everything. They do it without an issue at all.
It's one of the things I want to throw. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
One of the things I want to throw out here. So I work in cybersecurity. So like I'm aware of like all the privacy apps like Whisper, Wicker, Signal, Telegram. All the things. Like this is just the reality of like communicating online now, and people's children get involved in these applications. I mean, anybody can sign up for them. There's nothing stopping anybody, right? And there's no like age requirements or something on the other side. So from like an educational standpoint, I guess, like parents need to pay attention to what their kids are doing, right? Like that's a big thing, like for real. Like
absolutely. I mean, yeah, the thing about it, what parents don't realize, they say, oh, it's so cool to have my kid on Facebook and Snapchat. So many of our individuals that we catch come off of Facebook, Snapchat, they let them get on roadblocks. These adults are on there preying on these kids on roadblocks. They're everywhere. Anywhere a kid can get on, like on Facebook, they got these teen sites. There's all kinds of adults on these teen pages. They're there looking for that teen that's looking for that attention, and they're everywhere. So it's very important for parents they need to look at their kid's phone every single day. And these adults, they've got them getting little privacy vaults on their phone where they can hide stuff, make it look like a totally different app on their phone. And that's where they have them hide their conversations. But they also want them to go to Snapchat. What's the other one? WhatsApp. Places like that where where they can hide, so, and all their conversations are kind of gone away.
Yeah, that Roblox comment hit home, man.
It's the parents. They definitely they're on there. Believe me, they're on there.
My kids love Roblox, and I just created a whole new account for my son because I realized that he had a whole bunch of people that were friends on there who the hell knows who these people are. And I don't give him a microphone, so he's not able to chat or anything, but just the idea of like something like that could be occurring.
Yeah, one thing you want to do on Roblox is turn their chat ability off, where these people don't have the ability to chat with them. That's a really nice feature on Roblox. You can turn.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. And then my other son is like constantly asking for a texting app. And I'm like, dude, you're 7 years old. I don't know who you think you're texting, but you don't need a texting app. My 9-year-old just got a cell phone. His mom got him a phone, and I took it from him. Um, we're like, I split custody with him, so I can't be that protective of him 100% of the time. But the second he walked into my home with a cell phone, I took the phone and I put it out in my car. I was like, that's absolutely not something that you need right now in your life. And you're not going to, like, I'm very cognizant of all of the dangers out there. And I'm trying as a parent to prevent something like that from happening. But it is that easy. And I don't think people understand. Like, it is an app away from happening to you.
Yeah, it's like if we would go and I would catch a decoys, like a guy at a decoy's been talking to. I kind of put restraints on my decoys. I try and tell them to keep it between like 2 or 3 guys talking to at one time. But if they've been decoying for any length of time at all, and I go and I catch one of their guys and they go to replace him, they can have him replaced in usually 5 minutes or less with another adult wanting to be sexual with them. It's that big of a problem. And I mean, I would say, what do you have? Probably a couple hundred guys just waiting on you to message them.
Yeah.
That they're just sitting there. They've already messaged first, and she's just never messaged back, until it's time to replace them. And then she'll start going through the list. And there are some good guys out there, that, tell them, kind of read them the riot act, kind of, which is awesome. And lots of times those guys, I'll actually go kind of out of character and message or call them and say, hey, good job. Thank you for being one of the good guys. It's hard for us to think that those good guys exist out there, but there are some good guys out there that will actually look after a kid that may be on a site that they shouldn't be on, and try and get them off of there. So there are some good guys out there still, but boy, it's hard to think they are when you do what we do.
Well, isn't that kind of the first excuse that everybody says when they've been caught in this situation? Is like, hey, I was actually just trying to meet up with this kid to tell them that they need to get off of that and not do that. They're going to get themselves hurt. That seems to be the go-to, at least in all of the videos that I've seen of these people in the middle of a catch. That's, I don't know if in their head that's like they're backed in a corner and it's the only thing that they can ever think of to use as an excuse. But yeah, that's just kind of, they're I'm gonna might get out of jail free card.
That's kind of one of their good excuses. Yeah, it's they come up with some good excuses, but the most common excuse is, I thought she was 18, or that's what she told me. Like the one guy I just caught in North Carolina, he knows the legal age of consent is 16. So it's as soon as I caught him, because I mean, he had her getting dropped off with an Uber at an intersection at an old abandoned house with an old abandoned garage.
Oh.
Freaking, if you watch it, it's on our page. It's kind of split in 3 different videos on our page because it was so hot there that day. It was like 112 degrees and the camera kept shutting off. But he had her getting dropped off at an intersection and taking her into this old abandoned garage. And as soon as I walked back through the 4-foot weeds to get back to the garage, he said he was, he said first, he said, oh, I was here the other day. I thought I lost something. I left something here. That's what I was looking for. But when I walked back to him and I said something to him, he tossed something out through the weeds. He ended up tossing his phone out through the ginwigs, so he had all this evidence on his phone. But yeah, his first thing, well, once he finally admitted he was there to meet somebody, was she was 16, but he knew she was 13 the entire time. So, yeah.
How old was the individual? Do you know?
37. I do. Yeah, 37.
Wow. So even there isn't like a, how is there not like a in Pennsylvania is the, I believe the consent is 16, but there's like a limit to it, right? Like if you're like 3 years older than
Yeah,
that, like you're
it's a
still
Romeo
considered,
Juliet. It's the Juliet law, right?
yeah, something like that. I don't
Right.
know.
They
That's
call it the
never been.
Romeo and Juliet law, but I'm going to be honest with you. It isn't what you think it is. I mean, there's been multiple cases here in PA of a child being 14, 15, and or 16, and or 17 even, and the guy being in his 30s and nothing's ever happened because they say the legal age of consent is 16. Yeah, so
Wow.
it mainly has to deal with younger, and if say if they're 15, and if the guy is 18 and they're 15, there's nothing going to happen, because of the Romeo and Juliet law. They can have that 3-year difference. But once they get to that 16 mark, there's no such thing. It just doesn't. Nobody will prosecute those guys because of the legal age of consent.
Wow. That's, I can't even fathom that. I am 36, and I have, it's just not, I'm not program. I guess I'm
Mm-hmm.
normal, right? I guess that's just a normal thing. I can't even comprehend like being being attracted to somebody that young, and actually like even going through with it. Like, how many times does this person reach that pinnacle and then get scared and pull back? Like, it's insane to me that some, I don't know. It's, I can't wrap my head around it. I guess it's the same kind of reaction that everybody else should have. You shouldn't be able to justify it in any kind of rational thinking. It's just, that's crazy to
Right.
me. That's,
It should make any normal person sick to their stomach.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But so do you have any repeat offenders that you've caught more than once?
Yeah, we definitely caught one twice, and there's a couple that are probably going to be there soon. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, interesting. That's,
If you catch what I'm saying.
yeah. To me, that's also mind-boggling, because that's different. That's a whole different scenario than like even just somebody catching you by accident, or somebody opens up an app on the phone and sees a conversation, and then maybe you're dealing with a relative or something. And it's like, dude, if you talk to my kid again, I'm gonna cut your throat. Like that's a normal reaction. But this is a person that's been caught, that's been publicly shamed, embarrassed, called out online, exposed, and then returns to do it again.
Yep. Just finds another kid, and they believe that they're actually talking to another kid. Like I said, my decoys are really good. They're all, they for the most part, they all have the ability to talk and sound like a child. Like, I got a couple decoys that they could pass for 9 or 10-year-olds. In their voice wise, they could change their voice. Most of the time, all it takes is a phone call, and they're convinced. They just don't. Once they get that phone call, and I even got a couple of decoys that could actually video chat these guys, and that's like I mean, that's a deal sealer there. When those decoys are actually able to video chat these guys and they cannot tell they're not a child, that's like a 100% committed thing. They are in full belief that it's an actual child they're talking to.
So I guess now I have a question here, and it's going to sound like I'm excusing the behavior, but I'm curious. I mean, have you ever, wound up interacting with an individual that's like maybe clearly mentally, um, you know, deficient, and somebody that might cognitively be 12 or 13 in their brain? And is that a harder suspect to reach a conviction for due to the cognitive issue?
Um, on yes, and you'll never see a video of them. I handle them completely differently. Usually it's handled through their caretakers because most of them individuals have caretakers. So they're handled, I handle it through them. I usually don't involve the law. Um, I just like we had the one catch in North Carolina, the second one. Um, we just actually all as a team sat down with him. I was hoping his mother was going to be there. However, she was at her mother's house, which was ill. But we did have her on the phone. Um, and he was actually a repeat offender, as far as being caught. He was caught by a different team a while back. He didn't understand. And like I said, I think there's been probably 5 or 6 that I've handled differently. I don't involve the police. I don't do a video. I don't blast them all over the internet because they really don't understand what they're doing. They actually believe that they're a child, and they don't see age. Yeah, I handle them a lot differently, and I will continue to do so. I won't blast them. I won't call the cops on them. I would rather try and educate them and their family about what they're doing, and handle it a different way.
I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are obviously doing God's work. I mean, God bless you and your decoys and everything. For real, like you guys are
Oh,
the greatest. But then you have like stuff like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram who want to like take you guys down for some reason. Like there's like a stigma against
Well,
all this.
it all depends on how you do it. It really truly does. I mean, as far as YouTube, you know, YouTube I think they are. I don't want to bring politics in it, but they are very liberal. They don't. They believe in a different set of rules and laws than we do. Facebook, I haven't had too many problems with Facebook. Once I initiated some guidelines and rules on my page, kind of put some filters in place where it controls what people say on the chats while we're doing the lives. Um, I do have another fellow PA catch team that just got taken off of Facebook. I mean, why? I don't know. It was some kind of community guideline thing that they said he did. But I try and keep, I try and, I guess I do it in a little different way than some. There's other catch teams on Facebook as well that aren't having issues, but there's a lot that do, and it's all in how you do it. I believe in what you say and in your actions during the catch, that dictate how Facebook treats you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we see that just in the type of conversations that we have. It's kind of nuts how everybody has their own version of standards and practices of what a human should be able to do and say, and what kind of constitute a rule break in that regard as well. Any little thing can trigger a ban just like that. So Yeah, man, it's good that some places like Rumble exist so that you can. I mean, they're far more um, free thinking as far as what you can produce as content and what you can put out there. But I don't necessarily even consider what you're doing as like content creation. Sure, it can be perceived as that by some, but I mean, without the evidence you're
Right.
compiling, then it's just a he said she said situation. Like, this is an actual compilation of evidence of an individual breaking the law and or trying to hurt a child. So I don't even put it on the same
Right.
wavelength as something like what we do. We are content creators. That's what we do. But I think
Right. Right.
when you're catching or pet hunting, man, that might as well be a body cam on a police officer. Like, that stuff, you should have a certain set of rules that go with that kind of stuff. Like, it should be untouchable. Like, but another question
Right. I mean, I fully agree. It. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say that, and another question that I have is that so this is something that I feel like if I was participating in this, it would 100% be for the noble causes. But because of who I am as a person, it would be difficult for me not to kind of get a rise out of it, so to speak. Like, is there at any point in your investigations or when you're actually out trying to catch somebody, are you ever like hit with adrenaline? Is this something that kind of gets your blood pumping? Is it just kind of a like some kind of a release in that regard of tension, or are you just absolutely completely numb to all of that and calm in the situation and just kind of going about your day while it's happening?
I mean, any catch team, especially the individual doing the interview, I think they would be dishonest if they said there wasn't some kind of adrenaline um, before the catch, just because you're going into something you have no idea what's going to happen. For a long time, I didn't like now I wear a bulletproof vest. I never did for a long time. Just because I really, I don't know. It was one of those things I thought I thought I'd be able to control the situation because I was pretty close to the individual if something would go down. But there's always that possibility of something going down before I had ever get close enough to control the situation. So yeah, I mean, there's always that kind of adrenaline rush prior to the catch, but usually once I start talking to the individual, in which we're exposing / catching, whichever way you'd like to call it, the adrenaline kind of goes away, just because most of the time they're like they turn to putty because they're expecting to meet a child. And when they don't, they just are devastated kind of deal. So yeah, I mean, I think absolutely there is some kind of adrenaline rush when you first start doing an exposure, but I think it kind of wears off pretty quick once you realize you're kind of in control of that catch, even though you don't know what's going to happen prior.
Yeah. In addition to that bulletproof vest, is like, what other precautions do you take for safety in that situation? Like, I would assume if you show up
Give
and
it all away. Jeez.
well, I'm gonna say, like, if you show up and you look like GI Joe, that might incite that reaction that you don't want. Like, if I see somebody with a bulletproof vest coming at me, I might start to think something is about to go down, and then maybe do something I wouldn't actually do in that situation. So you never know how somebody's going to react, right? So like, just like how do you keep yourself safe?
Right, right. Yeah. I got a lot of team members with me. Usually I have, 2 to 3 security. I usually have like 6 to 8 people at an exposure. But my vest is kind of a concealed vest. It doesn't stand out like would see a police officer wearing or something like that. It's not one like that. So it's really not, they're seeing me come in there with a t-shirt.
It's a couple Campbell soup cans under the shirt, right?
Yeah.
And so we're kind of reaching that point where we generally keep things at just like about an hour or just under. And so I wanted to double check check with JC here if there's something that maybe I didn't cover in our questions, or I know how much he watches this stuff too and keeps up with it. If there's anything that I left out, before we let you go.
It's a hard conversation because like you don't want to give away certain things, and like at the same time, like all of you, Brian, your decoys, everybody else doing this, as I said, are doing God's work. It's awesome. Please don't stop, because the police don't have the man force to do it. And even if they do,
no, we're not stopping, brother.
Non-profit. There you go. So, I mean, if you have any like links or anything, which you maybe don't, that's okay. But feel free to promote yourself right now if you do.
Well, I want everybody to understand, we are a nonprofit, so our ability to keep doing what we do is donation based. If they go to our Facebook page, which is 814 Pred Hunters, there's avenues in which to help if they would wish to. We actually have like an Amazon wish list. They can go on Amazon. There's a link on our Facebook page to that as well, to help supply us with certain things. We have a website. It's 814 Pred Hunters LLC.org. There they can get on there and buy merchandise. We have some merchandise on there for sale. So I just want everybody to stand, that I don't usually ask for donations, but they got to understand that that's what keeps us going. And without the donations, it's difficult, especially to make longer trips like to different states. So,
and there's nothing wrong with asking for donations, especially for something like this. And I would assume like the majority of, you guys need like recording equipment, microphones, stuff like that, right? Like that's what you're looking for.
Well, most of it, like on Amazon, it's like memory cards. Because like I have a body cam, like an actual police body cam that takes a memory card, and we give the police the video of the exposure right there on scene. We just give them the memory card. So, those are on there. There's some, just some odd and ends on there that, if people doesn't want to make monetary donations, they can do that. They also, if they can message us on Facebook, they want to send us gas cards or something like that, I let them do that. I'll give them a PO box to send them. But yeah, it's, like I said, I just want everybody to understand, I don't ever ask for donations, but they are greatly appreciated because that's what keeps our wheels turning, at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I want everybody to check out those links and do what you can to support 814 Pred Hunters. It's an organization that absolutely should have your attention. You should 100% heed his advice. Get your kids off of apps. Monitor what they're doing. Take your chats off of Roblox. I will make
Absolutely.
sure I do that as soon as I stop recording this for my kids. It's nuts. How many you said, like literally 100 people just lined up waiting to get caught right now. So support them in every
Oh yeah, I'd
facet that
be surprised if she didn't have 150 or 200.
Oof. That's insane.
Yeah. So everybody should be alarmed by that. And then you should go and help in any way that you can. Send some memory cards and some gas cards over to these people.
Yes, please.
So they can keep your kids safe, keep my kids safe. And I appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
Yes, thank you so much, Brian.
I would, I'd love to do it again, and I'd love to.
Hey, I appreciate you guys wanting to spread the word, because it's important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep, 100%. So how we kind of generally do this at the end here. I have an outro that I'm going to play. I'm sure everybody's ready for it because I have the same spiel every single week. But I will hit that outro, and we will see everybody next time on the Watchers. And we are now the Watchers digital network. And yeah,
thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
The preceding program has been brought to you by the Watchers Podcast Network. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help grow our network. Check us out on all social media platforms, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, thanks for your support.